I put swamp water into a jar, teeming with creatures, waited 2 long months, and what I found inside surpassed anything I had ever observed before. The creatures had evolved to a scale I never imagined, and the predators had taken over. It all started on day 1, when I covered kilometers to reach this swamp, crossing difficult terrain under a heat that was hard to bear, with absolutely no idea that the water I collected that day would 2 months later become something I had never seen in any ecosystem before. I collected some mud, a few sticks, and most importantly, the water, which I drew from the deepest part of the swamp. The mud covered everything, making the water completely opaque. I could see movement inside, but filming was impossible. I had to contain my curiosity and wait days for the sludge to settle at the bottom. Every single corner inside the jar was crawling with life. Worm-like creatures glided calmly, sharing the space with much faster, twitchier organisms. That was where the real challenge started. Every time I tried to frame the camera, these water boatmen vanished from the shot at an absurd speed, hiding immediately as if they knew exactly that I was watching them. While tracking this insect with the lens, I found an even larger predator. It was stalking what appeared to be a lifeless body suspended at the surface. This was a damselfly nymph, a truly voracious creature, but the real danger lurked just a bit higher up. A tiny caddisfly larva was eagerly consuming strange green eggs. It was eating so fast and so much that its own body had completely changed color, turning into a vivid green. Pay close attention to this tiny caddisfly larva and keep this image in your mind. Toward the end of the observation, you are going to see it transform into a different and utterly formidable creature. Science has been fascinated by caddisfly larvae for years. They have the astonishing ability to secrete a special silk underwater, a biological glue so strong and flexible that scientists are currently studying it to develop advanced medical adhesives, capable of sealing human tissue inside the operating room. A true marvel of natural engineering, hidden inside a creature barely a few millimeters long. The variety of creatures cohabiting here is astonishing for how little time this ecosystem has been running. But what will happen over time as the jar balances out? Which creatures will be favored and which ones will disappear? Underwater, the key strategy is invisibility. The best example is this creature, a mix between a slug and a worm, so transparent you can see its internal organs in real time. Descending toward the bottom of the jar, I found something moving with a much more familiar look. A tiny snail that, to my surprise, was traveling at a quite unusual speed. Its goal was clear. It was rushing toward the surface. That's when I noticed a strange pattern. Almost all life was crowding at the top of the jar. It seemed as though oxygen was starting to deplete at the bottom, turning it into a hostile environment where there was barely any movement. One of the most numerous inhabitants here are damselfly larvae. Even though they are efficient predators, they surprisingly seem to get along. They even move in groups, spending hours side by side. However, this truce is deceptive, as they feed on absolutely anything that moves. The fascinating thing about these larvae is that they hide an articulated jaw under their head, called a mask, which they can shoot forward in just a few milliseconds to snap up prey. A hunting mechanism so astonishing it inspired the iconic attack of the creature from the Alien movies. A fact that almost no one knows about these larvae is that they have 3 leaf-like structures at the end of their bodies that work like fins, allowing them to swim by propelling themselves like tiny fish. The incredible thing is that if they feel trapped, they can detach them to escape and regenerate them later. However, this leaves us with a major question. If conditions at the bottom of the jar continue to shift and the vital air dissolved in the water begins to run low down there, how will these creatures react? Will they manage to adapt, or will their behavior completely change? This happens because a very curious natural phenomenon occurs in a closed jar. All the remnants of leaves and organic matter fall to the bottom, serving as food for millions of bacteria. With so much activity down there, these bacteria consume the oxygen in the water at an incredible speed, causing the bottom to run out of usable air. This splits the water into 2 completely different worlds and forces almost all the creatures to rush toward the surface, since the top part is the only place where the water can take in oxygen from the outside air and where the plants, thanks to sunlight, naturally release the vital element everyone needs to survive and keep going. Watching the larvae closely, it's impossible not to get hypnotized. Seeing them touch antennae and sit perfectly still, side by side, instantly connects you to their world. It gives you a strange mix of peace and tension because you know that calm could break at any moment. That's when I noticed something truly tiny and strange, looking just like a small red tick. Looking closer, you could make out its 8 legs, the key feature revealing it's an arachnid. It's highly likely a water mite, a type of parasite that usually searches for hosts in these environments. There seems to be a worrying imbalance in the food chain within this corner of the jar, as we are seeing far more predators than potential prey. If things keep going this way and resources become increasingly scarce, a time will inevitably come when the rules of the game shift, forcing them to compete and start hunting each other just to survive. For now, in this tense race for survival, the beetle larvae seem to be completely winning. You just have to look at the massive and terrifying jaw on one of them, a perfect and relentless biological tool for dominating the environment. The green eggs belong to the worms. Their reproductive capacity is colossal. They will create thousands of offspring in record time, a population explosion that will serve as the perfect food source to balance the jar. I left the jar forgotten on the shelf, and 2 months later, something incredible happened. The ecosystem had completely changed. Plants had grown at the bottom, and what's more, the substrate was coming to life. You could see constant movement full of tiny organisms crawling everywhere. The ecosystem had completely saved itself thanks to the little light from the window it was exposed to. Nature always finds a way to press forward. However, right then I saw something terrifying. The moth larvae hadn't just survived, they had mutated extremely, growing up to 20 times their original size. If you remember that tiny larva that used to feed on the green eggs, it has completely changed now. They have spun a sort of dense web or lair where they hide, lying in wait and staring down any unsuspecting creature that dares to pass by. To give you an idea of the scientific monster we are dealing with, these creatures have the unique ability to slow down their metabolism to survive in freezing or nearly oxygen-depleted waters, and the most terrifying part is that their jaws exert enough pressure to pierce through plastic or tough tissues to seal their hyper-permeable nests, combined with the fact that adult males can detect the pheromones of the submerged female from miles away, successfully mating on the surface without her ever leaving the water in her entire brief life of just a few hours dedicated exclusively to reproduction. Look at how it stares down that water bug from its lair, silently stalking it and waiting for the slightest mistake to turn it into its next prey. Creating these videos and maintaining these ecosystems takes a lot of time and effort. So if you enjoy my content, I would truly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart if you liked and subscribed, as that small, free gesture helps me out tremendously to keep going.